In this video, we're going to deal with a triple blank text completion and the idea of counterintuitive answer choices. Now, counterintuitive answer choices, and what I'm going to talk about in this video, don't necessarily only come up in triple blanks, but typically do. So keep that in mind. But here we have a triple blank specimen. And what do I mean by counterintuitive? Well, if we read the sentence, the government recently ruled against blank annual smog checks for automobiles. Right away, many of us want to say, well, obviously the government wants to make sure that there are annual smog checks for automobiles because, well, then people start polluting and we have to save the environment. However, if you read the sentence, it says, since the state already requires that each car must undergo blank maintenance checks, and ordering or mandating additional tests would be unnecessarily blank for owners. So you can see that the sentence is going against our initial impression of, oh, the government is going to require smog checks. Rather, it's ruling against mandatory or necessary smog checks. So if you were drawn to the lack of annual smog checks, then you went for what was your first hunch answer choice. And so in a sense, it's counterintuitive because our intuition says, oh, save the environment. But in this case, it's not that the environment's not being saved. They give a reason for not requiring mandatory smog checks. So that gives us the first blank. Don't fall prey to such words like this, perfunctory, just because it's scary looking. Mandatory is not a difficult word. Perfunctory, however, is a very difficult word. As long as you read the sentence, and of course you don't fall for the first hunch answer choice, you should be able to get mandatory. Perfunctory, by the way, means something that you do without much enthusiasm. You just go through the motions. And I guess one can argue when you get smog tests, you're probably being perfunctory about it. But again, the word does not fit in the blank. Then the second blank. Well, we need a reason why there shouldn't be mandatory smog checks on automobiles. And a good reason is that cars, at least in the state, already have rigorous maintenance checks. That means they're already given smog tests, all this other stuff, so there's no need to require additional. Cursory means something that's done in a superficial manner, not the answer. And illicit, which means illegal, don't think, oh, it relates to legally here. Doesn't work in the blank. Finally, it says that these smog tests can be somewhat costly, and therefore they're going to be unnecessarily burdensome for car owners. So what word means burdensome? Well, dismissive clearly doesn't. Ambiguous. Don't be fooled by this answer choice because you think, well, there are two possibilities going on here, and one would think getting mandatory smog checks is a good thing, but it's not, so that's ambiguous because there's two things. That's not what ambiguous means. Ambiguous means something is not clear because it has more than one possible interpretation. And the answer here is a more difficult word, which is onerous, which is similar to burdensome. And here we have our three answers. And again, the takeaway from this is don't just dive into a text completion because you see a few words and assume, oh, it must be this. Always read the entire thing.